Hello and welcome. This is Rooflemonger, my friends. Today we're talking Street Fighter 6 and I guess sort of the fallout of the balance patch. Obviously, lots of big things happen for lots of characters, but I do want to talk one character in specific today, and that is Ryu. In that, I feel that Ryu, as of this patch specifically, has finally helped get out of Akuma's shadow, out of the Evil Ryu shadow as well. In just about every game where you can find Ryu and Akuma as a playable character, Akuma is just better Ryu. Just all around, right? Because as the Shoto archetypes go, when we just have two, we have Ken and Ryu. Generally, Ryu is the more all-rounder, maybe better zoner, and Ken's the more aggressive one, right? And then we add some other ones to the mix, like say Sakura. Sakura is usually the combo monkey and usually has better buttons between the other Shotos. Dan, in whatever game he may be in, usually has a bunch of unique gimmicks. And usually Dan's bad too, but Dan's certainly unique, right? But the problem is with all the Shotos is they all have their distinct flavor, but then when you compare Ryu and Akuma, Akuma's just better Ryu, because he is also the all-rounder like Ryu is, except he can do even more. And yes, it's always at the consequence of less health, sure, but that's usually not too much of a factor in the matter, because tier-wise in just about every game as well, Akuma is just a flat-out better character than Ryu, regardless of the health differences, just because he has more things to do, more options. He does everything Ryu does, and then just a little bit more yet. And then say the games where we have someone like Evil Ryu, once again, much the same. Evil Ryu is just Ryu, but better. I'm sure you've seen the fancy Evil Ryu combo Daigo did back in the day, Street Fighter 4, right? That's something regular Ryu could never hope to do or accomplish. And yes, Evil Ryu also had just slightly less health than regular Ryu, but he could just do so much more. Now, that kind of brings us here to Street Fighter 6. Street Fighter 6 Ryu has, unique traits that are for him. He has, the Denjin, right? That turbocharges some of his moves. It's a buff. This is something Akuma does not have, or even really the other Shotos, right? So self-buff, that's something unique to him. He keeps the donkey kick, the high blade kick, as it's called in-game, and that's something he has every now and then. So now it's here. Like, he's a very complete moveset, right? But he didn't still have much identity. Like, Ken was clearly better than Ryu in Season 1 of Street Fighter 6. And Season 2 now, with the balance patch, Ryu is one of the clear winners, right? I'm not going to say he's necessarily better than Ken or Ryu, but he's certainly got a mountain of buffs. Like, he's got all sorts of better hitboxes, the Denjin buff specifically, the fact that you don't have to burn the buff now when you have the buff up. You can choose when to burn it. That's really big and gives more identity to the buff. All sorts, new combo routes, like Light Donkey Kick goes from regular lights as well. Better scaling on some moves, so he'll just do more damage all around. That's nice. Better, meter gain on a lot of moves. But he got two big changes that help him really change himself from what Akuma and Ken can do in this game. And that's what I want to talk about. I don't want to necessarily go over every single buff. We've already talked about the buffs, right? But these are the changes I want to highlight. These are the changes now when you look at Akuma, when you look at Ken, and in the future of the game, years will go by, there'll be more characters. When you look at Sakura, when you look at Dan, or whatever Shotos may appear, right? Some of these are going to be the reasons you would pick Ryu over these characters. Because obviously, they can both do Hurricane Kicks. They both do the Dragon Punch. They both do Fireballs, right? And pretty much all the Shotos can do it. Akuma specifically has a better Fireball game than Ryu, as he has, the same basic numbers, except he always recovers 1 frame faster. Also, his hurt box is just a little bit better as well. So there's that, right? So when it comes to pure Fireball, minus having the buff up, Akuma does it better. And obviously, Akuma has the charge levels as well. So basically, why pick Ryu, right? How do we get out under Akuma's shadow? How do we compete with Ken? All that kind of stuff, right? Well, that's because Ryu has a defined game plan the other two Shotos don't have right now. Because Ryu is now a bully in a way these characters just simply are not. Now, what do I mean by bully? I mean, Ryu can maul you up close and just stay in your face in the way the other Shotos can't. He'll pressure you not through like mix-ups or gimmicks or anything like that, you guess like overhead low or whatever. It's the fact that he can do something that is not going to be a mystery, and yet you still kind of have to groove on it. So one of the big changes out of the gate here, forward heavy punch. This is like a huge change for the character. So this is a move that's advantage on block. It's always been advantage on block in Street Fighter 6, but now it's much more advantage on block. Keep in mind, Street Fighter 6, compared to other Street Fighters, plus frames are actually quite rare, right? And let alone the fact that it's now +3. Used to be +1, is now +3, and that guarantees a lot. Like, Ryu has 2 very strong medium punches, standing medium punch, crouch medium punch, both 6 framers. Before, if you went for this, and you're +1, it's still nice to be +1, but it didn't guarantee these. These would actually lose to a follow-up jab. So you had to kind of jab them back. And sure, like, there's pressure after that, counter hit combos, all the kind of stuff. But now, well, things are just better, because after this +3, that means you go for one of your mediums, your stand medium or your crouch medium. That means, other than an invincible move, or super armor, you're always going to win. And not the least of which, especially on counter hit, it gives you much better combos to work with. You know, world's your oyster on whatever you want to do. Blocking a plus on block move, especially when it's +3, which is pretty high in this game, engenders passivity, right? Okay, I definitely don't want to eat a counter hit combo, especially much stronger counter hit combos, right? So I'll be passive, and then of course just quick low, walk forward, quick throw, kind of go from there. And the basic throw for Ryu is pretty strong. Stronger, I'd say, the average character. One, he's got, like, you know, pretty strong throw loop. Easy enough, right? Mid-screen even. Like, just DR, stand medium punch is pretty solid. Even if you back roll, he's going to get you. He doesn't even need the burn meter. He can get you off medium donkey kick and force you to block later into the active frames, right? Even if you back roll, you can't walk out of it. So, like, he's got good throw pressure. And then, as a consequence of that, one of his other buffs, stand heavy punch, is now more advantage on hit. That means in a punish counter situation, it naturally goes into the heavy Hashugeki, and you don't need the buff or anything like that, right? You can just do it, which means his punish routes, especially on a shimmy to get a throw, right, are much more meter efficient. It doesn't always have to be, you know, heavy kick into heavy punch, DR, go from there. You can be a bit more meter efficient if you want. Still high damage. You're not losing that much less than the DR combo, and you're only spending 1 bar instead of 3, and also pretty good knockdown. And if you do want to burn more bar and get a better knockdown yet, you can just kind of go in and, like, yeah, you're spending more meter, but even better knockdown super plus in front of their face. Good corner carry as well, right? There's a lot of options, and options is king. Options is why Akuma is generally better than Ryu, right? So having more options equals more better. And this being better on block is good for a myriad of reasons, right? But it's also much better on hit. Both on its face and less so much, right? So, like, say it hits. It's +6. Oh, that goes into stand medium punch. Oh, stand medium punch got the really big buff where the target combo goes into the Denjin. So now any stray hit, you know, if you don't want to go crazy on burning all your meters, hey, at very least you get a good knockdown, guaranteed buff, advantage frames go from there. Another buff is to its application. So one of the buffs, and this is one of those buffs where you glaze your eyes, you don't really think about it too much. Knockback time when the first attack hits an opponent change from 15 to 25 frames. So this means specifically the first hit, not the second hit. The second hit overrates the first hit. So this means specifically on trades. And this is extra applicable because Ryu has some really strong knockdowns off of light Tatsu. Specifically off light Tatsu forward dash. Okay, we're +16. Forward heavy punch, 20 frames. So this means if they woke up with a jab, this would connect on the same frame and they trade. As you can see right there, right? And now it traded, it says we're at 9 advantage frames, which is great. We can combo from that. But before, we would have been -1 on that trade. So one of the things here in these setups where you can auto time forward heavy punch, now, if you do trade, you get a guaranteed combo. Compared to before, you lost your turn. So this means in the situations where we can kind of threaten this on your wake up, like, it just became way scarier, right? Because if you do trade, now I have a guaranteed combo. If for whatever reason you don't trade, well, cool. Then I get a guaranteed combo. And if you block, then it's still my turn, right? It's just kind of like one change at the top cascades to everything down below it. The fact that it's more threatening on block and forces everything else, the more you want to get out of it, the more you want to try to press buttons to stop it, all that kind of stuff. And those situations don't work as much. And this basically becomes a big bully tool, as we talked about before. This is a comparable button that Ryu has that Akuma and Ken do not. They can't just go plus frames, plus frames, plus frames, plus frames till the cows come home. And this sort of leads us to the next part here. So, this is not the only plus frames he has, right? He has others, like say, EX Hashogeki. Plus on block, plus 3 on block as well. Big number to be plus by. So say if I do this, you block it, and then I go for crouch medium punch. You cannot hit a button out of this. It's airtight. I win. You can do something invincible. Yeah, that's always an option. But when it comes to pressing buttons or doing something like that normally, not an option. You will lose. And then say I do that, and then screw it. Let's take another turn. I burn 2 bars, and I'm plus 3 again. And say I burn 2 bars and then plus 3 again and add and fin them, right? And that's where a lot of the extra bully power comes from, because this is a technique that existed before, sure, but now it's so much stronger because it deals so much more drive gauge damage on block. Like on a lot of the moves, if you check the patch notes, he's just doing more guard gauge damage across the board anyways, but on medium, heavy, Denjin, and EX Hashogeki, he's doing 66% more guard gauge damage, more drive gauge damage every time you block. And when Ryu the Bully gets to take turn after turn after turn after turn, because of plus frame after plus frame after plus frame, he can drain your guard gauge in a way the other shotos also cannot do. He can enforce burnout more like, say, a Honda could, because he has a lot more big opportunities to do so. I'm going to show you a sequence here that there's nothing special other than you have the Denjin buff up. And at the cost of 4 of my bars, I'm going to drain 4 of the opponent's bars, and there's nothing they can do to get out of it other than something invincible, or in the very small gaps, do a perfect parry. And on the note of, trying to parry out, at any point during those plus frames, I can just stop and go for and tick throw you, right? So that's always the threat as well. So if you try to parry out, mash out, and you get thrown and lose 20%, it might stop you from mashing parry the next time around. And we're going to start this whole sequence off forward heavy punch, which is not a magical Christmas land situation. It's going to happen multiple times per match. So look at that. I dealt over 4 bars of drive gauge damage and also regenerated a bit of mine. Didn't quite cost me 4, right? So Ryu can easily enforce burnout if that's what he's looking for. And once again, that's basically all airtight. There's only one part where they could jab out, and it's the worst part to jab out. It's certainly not after the X hashos, because you'll lose out pretty bad there. But specifically after crouch medium punch, heavy hasho with the buff up, that'll trade with 4 framers. Because Denjin Hashogeki got faster. Before, the 4-framer would have beaten it clean, right? Now it will lose because you trade, and the trade is so heavy. Like, this isn't just a regular, this is a plus 24 trade. This is so plus. I can literally mash forward heavy punch and it'll land. It's a 20-frame move. I'll still get it. And I can just kind of go from there. It's ridiculous. So mashing not an option, and even without the Hasho buff. Like, even this by itself. This is airtight against mashing. That's still over 3 bars of guard gauge damage. Because all the Hashos do so much more drive gauge damage on block. Ryu, once again, bully. That's the term I'm going with here. He can bully you in a big time way, plus frame after plus frame after plus frame, drain your guard gauge, drain your guard gauge. And once again, it's not even about forcing burnout. That's good. But taking away their drive gauge takes away their options. And I guarantee you, most folks say, they do like the usual thing. Crouch, medium kick, drive, rush, comp, whatever, right? And they're down their bars. They're not prepared from, 3-ish bars to go into burnout mid-screen pretty easily, which Ryu can do on basically any touch. Like, oh, regenerating that meter? Too bad I tagged you. Welcome to Burnout City, buddy. Like, that's not difficult to do at all, thanks to these changes. So that's kind of my argument here. This is Ryu's identity now, over Ken, over Akuma. He's not just the all-rounder what shoots the fireball, because Akuma's the all-rounder what shoots the fireball better than Ryu does, right? Ryu has his various traits, but now the one identifiable trait that is specifically his is just pressure, 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 bullying, bullying, bullying in a way the other shotos can't do. So that's my argument. Let me know what you think in the comments below. But there's also other fun stuff too, just to show you, right? Because he's also got the gimmicks now. So one of the changes was if he did like the level 3 and somehow he just didn't get all of it, he didn't get the cinematic, it actually deals damage now, right? You won't have your damage like just crippled. And the thing is, because it doesn't enforce the cinematic, say you got it in the corner, there's no reset, right? You're still directly on top of them. And then there's certain situations where you can force the non-cinematic version to hit, be directly on top of them, and get some funny frame advantage situations. Like nothing too fancy here, but like medium, EX Tatsu, right? And after EX Tatsu, you can go like, you know, Shoryu Super, sure, right? But if you do medium Shoryuken instead of heavy Shoryuken, it creates just a little bit of a gap where the cinematic won't go off. There we go. We still get that damage now, right? But now we're plus 21. Okay, that's a good number to be. Plus 21. What's 20 frames? Oh, the overhead. And did you know that the overhead got buffed to be more advantage on hit? It's plus 3. And if we hit meaty, well then... Now we're plus 4 because we hit later in the active frames, right? Which means plus 4. So cheeky little reset, basically. You can get a meaty overhead, get a combo. This is a gimmick, right? This is not solid like the other stuff I showed you, but I'm just showing you because I think it's neat, right? But yeah, so Ryu, I'm not going to say he's better than Akuma or Ken, but I do feel this season, unlike season 1, he has a chance to thrive. He's identifiably different. There's a reason you would pick him over Akuma and Ken, and whoever's to come in the future, right? As far as shotos go. And I'm a fan of it. I like Boy having his own unique identity other than Akuma with less options, but more health. So, I don't know. It gives me a lot of hope for this patch, right? And I just want to share some of the neat stuff with you. That said, though, that is the video. So, thank you very much for watching. Hope this video has found you well. And go out and play some Street Fighter.